Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and it's time for another breakfast with Blaha. And today I'm having Greek yogurt, almond butter, and frozen blueberries. One of the things that I do get a little annoyed with my food by is when subscribers or people on the fitness page try to tell me you should add this and that to your Greek yogurt to make it taste better. First of all, it tastes great the way it is. I like what I'm eating. Number two, I don't want hyperpalatable food. I'm a binge eater. Are you trying to make me eat 10,000 calories a day? Okay. Bad advice. Understand when you're giving advice to people, you need to understand who that person is. Something I've had to learn as a coach. I'm not someone who we need to add stuff to my food to make it taste better. That just makes me hungry. That's not good. So let's talk about bench press. So I get a lot of people who say, Jason, how many reps should I be doing for accessory work on squats and deadlifts? And I always try to tell them we don't need to do these things. I don't have my lifters do that anymore. And you know what? When I've taken groups of lifters, even advanced lifters, and I have them do squats or deadlifts for anything other than max and dynamic work versus the ones who just do accessory work, they don't get stronger any faster, and they just end up getting more fatigued. We don't do work on these. We don't do rep work. The only people who sometimes benefit from, say, some squat rep work are people who cannot seem to learn to box squat correctly. And I do get lifters who do this. When I teach them how to box squat, they don't lean forward enough. They don't lean forward enough. They let themselves rock back too much, and they're not keeping the bar in front of over their feet. They're not keeping it over the midfoot when they get to the bottom of the box. Then you put those people on a back squat, and they can't squat. They're back squat, they're way back, and then they struggle to get the weight moving, and it becomes this very quad dominant movement where they can't use their glutes and their adductors as well. And all of a sudden, they lose 40 pounds off what they can box squat. And it's because they're not box squatting correctly. All right, they're not box squatting correctly. And by correctly meaning they're too upright. Now, upright doesn't mean chest up. Your chest can be up and you can be leaning forward, or you could be way too upright and your upper back is rounding. Now, your upper back is rounding. You're still upright, though, as far as your spine. Well, that's a bad situation. That's not what you want. But if you can just teach people how to box squat correctly, they're fine. I was chatting with Viata a while back, my bro Alex Viata, because we chat quite a bit. He's on my Facebook. And he had said he doesn't like to squat. He hates squatting. He does mostly deadlifting and other leg work and tons of leg pressing, and has a 600 squat right now because he decides to test it every now and then. He's up past 600 pounds. He doesn't squat. He doesn't even box squat. Plenty of 700-pound squatters out there who do almost all their work with a safety bar on a box. Known of guys like this. They squat 700 on a back squat. They don't even practice it. Conventional deadlift, same thing. Plenty of 600, 700 pullers who do not even deadlift. Other than maybe some speed work and stuff. It's just not necessary. These are low skill movements. Again, the only time we run into skill problems on a squat tends to be chest and back position, right? That's it. There's minimal skill to a back squat, especially a power squat. Mostly hypertrophy and just in building overall strength. And I'm not saying the skill doesn't matter, it just matters very, very little. That skill is worth, 10, 15 pounds on your max. It doesn't turn a 500 squat into a 600. It turns a 500 squat into a 510 squat, getting really skilled at it. Deadlift, almost irrelevant, to be honest. Either you know how to deadlift or you don't. If you can perform a deadlift, you can walk in and do it. Bench pressing is a different beast. The bench press is the most technical of the big three. Right? It's the most technical of the big three. You have to learn how to get tight on it. You have to learn where to touch the bar for your leverages, right? You have to learn how to do it with a pause. Learning to set up tight is totally different. You can brute strength your way, though, through a bench press. There are guys out there who've hit monstrous benches who are genetic freaks, before they learned how to bench correctly. I mean, they do exist. It does happen. The bench actually does have a skill component that's separate from learning to max out. What do I mean by that? Because maxing is a skill, and maxing is not lift specific. In other words, maxing on any squat carries over to any other squat. Maxing on any pull carries over to any other pull. All right, you can do nothing but sumo variations for maxes from different heights, bands, chains, and it will carry over to your conventional. The bench press has enough of a skill component that there is benefit to practicing it. So for my lifters, we do use the bench press as an accessory. All right, and what do we mean as an accessory? Anything that is not a max effort or dynamic effort. All right, our primary program is MEDE. So anything that falls outside of those two, if we're doing 5s, 10s, 20s, whatever, which is usually going to be 10s, is an accessory. We're doing it for hypertrophy. Now, fortunately for us, the bench press, particularly pause benching, is a good hypertrophy exercise. Okay, so we have the benefit of being able to use the bench press itself for hypertrophy. It's actually a good hypertrophy movement. Only non-experts think that it isn't. Right? You go look at anyone who, even guys who are into bodybuilding primarily, who actually have a formal education, they've taken plenty of biomechanics, they usually agree that the bench press is a great hypertrophy exercise, or even for the chest. Only ignorant bodybuilders think it isn't, and they go out of their way to try to use as little chest as possible on the bench, and then they wonder why it doesn't work. It's like, well, no shit. Why did you turn it into a delt exercise? Why'd you go through all that trouble? So that you can complain your chest didn't grow? Bench like a power lifter, your chest will grow. Right? Use a little bit of an arch, and you pause on the chest, and then you go through the full range of motion. But we have the benefit of it being a good hypertrophy exercise, so this works out great. So because it's a lift that we need to practice the skill and setup of getting tight, it works. And it carries over really well on the tightness when we're doing rep work. Why? Because you have to maintain that tightness for an entire work set, not just one rep. And if you can maintain that tightness for 3 sets of 10, again, maintain a perfect arch, maintain scapular retraction, keep your grip on the bar to where it doesn't roll because your wrist cocked back because you got loose. If you can maintain that for multiple 10 rep sets, it becomes a lot easier to maintain that on a 1 rep max where you only have to do it one time. Okay. So for the bench pressing, my guys do rep work on it, right? We do rep work on it. And we oftentimes do rep work on it with different grips and different variations, not just their competition type, because most of my people are not power lifters. I have 4 power lifters on my roster right now, 4. And now you almost never have more than 4 at a time. But for everyone else, again, they still want a big bench usually because they want to be big, they want to be strong. And a lot of people care about the bench. So almost all of my lifters bench. Not just almost all, they all do bench, at least currently. But we do actually do rep work on it as a supplemental lift. The other two, I generally don't have them do it. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.